Alright, so if you have been active on Discord in the past week, you might have noticed that there have been some new fancy webms that change their size as they play. Stuff like the piston webm, for example. People have discovered how to do those new gimmicky webms, and you may have seen the famous one named coloride.webm, which plays Brainpower by Noma, and it does the thing where it wobbles to the music. But that webm is 23 megabytes in size and cannot be re-uploaded without Discord Nitro. But what if I told you we can make it better, smaller, and without the watermark which wasn't there originally? Whoa. Let's see it in action. So yeah, if you just want the link, it's right in the description. Yeah, I decided to remake this video. I'm doing this mostly because it bothered me how the video's creator has a little video demonstrating his own webm in action, right? But he fails to credit anyone involved in the video, which I don't think it's quite right, and I tried to set this right by actually, typing out who was involved in all this, but I don't know, for some reason I don't think YouTube likes this kind of comment, because, you post it there and it sits there for about 10 to 15 seconds and then it just gets memory hold for some reason. Yeah, you see it now. But after like less than a minute, bam, not there anymore. So yeah, this is not going to be a how-to, because there already exist tutorials online on how to do the basics of what you see in those webms. Like there is a tutorial by No Text to Speech called Discord's Animated Videos Explained plus How to Make Them. Oh yeah, I also should show you the video itself, how it looks like, so you know where to find it. Yeah, this video has all of the real basics in case you really don't know anything and just kind of want to do something with the program. But yeah, the video itself is a bit more complex than that, the Brainpower one. This video is gonna assume you kind of got the basics down and shows off the process involved in making such stuff. It took me about 3 hours. So yeah, to start with, you need Wacky Webm by Neuer. I don't know how you pronounce it. Like it says here, it's a tool that allows you to create webm video files with changing aspect ratios. That's what Coloride used, and that's what I used. And that's where all of those videos are coming from. Yeah, so yeah, you need to install the dependencies, FFmpeg, Node.js, stuff like that, and Wacky Webm, of course. Alright, so this is the Wacky Webm folder after you download the code from GitHub and unpack it. Those two folders, my stuff and other people's code variants, are mine. So you're gonna need a base video that you are gonna run for the program first, right? For that you will need some way to get the video you want. There are various programs for downloading videos off the internet. I'll leave that as an exercise to you. But yeah, I do happen to be in possession of the original video, which, by the way, is a lyrics video by Martin of Brainpower by Noma. You can watch it on YouTube. It's very popular, it's very cool. Okay. So here it is. This video is going to have so many cuts. So yeah, this is what we are going to work with. Alright, so first things first, let us analyze our input. So let's think about how big do we need the WebM to be. In terms of dimensions, consider the following. So WebMs on Discord, on Windows, and on the web browser, which are the only places where the resizing actually like works, it seems to be 400 by 225 pixels. You gain nothing from having a bigger video, as far as I'm aware. So that's the dimensions we're going to aim for. Alright, we can move this window aside for now. So yeah, type it down, 400 by 225. This one is obviously way larger. You can use your video player. It probably has some way to display information about the video you're playing. The original one has 1080p resolution. You should downsize it. So some other considerations, the bitrate. Your video player might be able to show that. That will tell us a lot about what we need to know. Like, you know, this was a YouTube video. YouTube employs quite heavy compression, so it provides us information about how much bitrate we might need for this kind of stuff. It's about 3, okay, I guess up to 5 megabits per second for, like, you know, for a 1080p video. That's useful information to us. Okay, now we need to find a good resolution for the video. The problem with 400 by 225 is FFmpeg will complain if the height is not divisible by 2. So what I like to do is use GIMP. You can use whatever you like to help you calculate the stuff. But I like to go to canvas size, make sure the proportions are preserved, and then kinda type out the height I want and just go up until I see some pre-round number, and we arrive at 444 by 250, which will be what we'll be resizing our video to. Alright, we have almost everything now. So this here, by the way, is the original Wacky WebM video of brain power. It was named coloride by default. So some things you can see about this one, it's already smaller, but the bitrate is way higher than it ever needs to be. So that's incredibly wasteful. We're not gonna use that. As you can see in MPV, the size also changes, which is cool. One thing that we need to keep in mind is we need the FPS to be lower. I tried to work with the original, which had about 60 FPS. It's not exactly 60. It's like 59.940. For some reason, Wacky WebM doesn't really provide correctly working videos if you have them at 60 FPS. So you'll need to go with 30. The half of the original frame rate is 29.970, exactly as here. So we'll need to change the frame rate. Alright, first we're going to have to trim the video now that we know all of our parameters. Right. So you can use any video editing program you want for that. I've been using FFmpeg. It's honestly terrible because it's, you know, it doesn't have a GUI, but it's incredibly powerful, and yeah, over the years you will have like a spell book of commands that work. So this is the one we want. We need to decide the duration as well. I think the original does it perfectly. It's not too long. If it doesn't overstay its welcome, it has a healthy amount of bouncing, so we aim to replicate that. This is the starting time, more or less, down to half a second. There is the video codec, VP9, the VPX is for WebMs. Well, you need to re-encode one way or another, because if you try to trim a video without that, then it will snap to the nearest keyframe and will not give you the exact duration you want. So unfortunately you have to transcode. Yeah, the bitrate I've chosen through trial and error was 1 mega, I think that's megabit, right? So about 3 to 5 times less than the original, but you have to consider that the dimensions are much smaller. Yeah, we put the frame rate here and this kind of stuff. I forgot what it does, but all 3 of those combined make it so that you use multi-threading. You just use as many cores as you have. So if you like go to your task manager and switch the display to logical processors, you get the general idea of how many threads you can utilize, and you know, it will be much faster that way. Up to, you know, as many times faster as many threads you add. So yeah, now we have our output video. Let me fetch it over. This one. Alright, the file moved here for some reason. Yeah, way smaller. We had to change the audio codec to libvorbis because the default one from the YouTube video is not compatible with WebM. As you can see, looks decent at such a small bitrate. Now this will be what we are going to work with. So now that we got our video trimmed, we can get to work on actually adding that satisfying bounce effect. However, you know, if you just try to use the program, you'll find that the default modes don't exactly do what you want them to. So to Coloride's credit, he had to figure out how to delay the bounce. Like, if you go through the project's documentation, you will find that they basically don't do what we want them to. The bounce is the closest thing to what we want. There's also keyframes, which lets you specify almost by hand how to do the stuff, but it takes a while to get to familiarize yourself with how to do it. There is a bit of a wiki that tells you how to work with keyframes, but that's not the way I did it. I'm just gonna show you what worked for me. Alright, so that's the tricky part, because you need to actually dig into the code a bit. Like, in general, if you want to play with such code toys, the best skill you can have is the ability to read the code, like sit patiently and try to figure out what all of it does. Okay, so without going into the details, the information on how to transform frames is contained within the files inside the modes folder. And we're gonna have a look at the bounce.js. It has a nice little sine wave that depends on which frame it is and what is the tempo you want and the frame rate. Now, I don't know JavaScript, so my solution might not be the best, but I've just figured this part governs from which point we begin transforming frames, so we can choose it to be any frame we want. This value is not accidental, it happens to be the one I found. And also we can, you know, do a little manipulation of the sine function so that it begins when we want it to, which is, you know, at the start of a certain point, frame 189 onwards. I lowered it by 1 because I felt it had a slightly nicer start. So that's all I needed to do. I hacked the program like that a little bit. If you need help with that kind of stuff, then, you know, by the way, they do have a Discord server for WebM. You should go there if you have questions about, you know, doing something non-standard, and they will be happy to help you, I think. Alright, I think by this point in the video I must have made like 30 cuts, but I hope it will be short. Alright, now we need to figure out how long do we want to wait before we begin the bouncing to the music, right? Well, we can inspect the original. If we have a video player that actually shows the change in the frame size, then we can just kind of go frame by frame to figure out when that happens. This is the last frame before the bouncing begins, and then it starts. And we want something like that in our video as well. Okay, but so how do we know at which frame do you want this thing to start? We don't know the number of any of the frames. Well, that's how WebM does it. It has an ffmpeg command there that looks pretty much like this. We need to rename this file to the one we want to disassemble. And it will process the video and spit out individual frames. Just need to make sure the directory exists for this stuff. Wow, that was super fast. Yeah, so the moment the let the bass kick stuff fades is, yeah, exactly in frame number 189, you see. The %d just means that it names the frames in order, starting from 1 to, you know, the final one, which is 858, I believe. Yes. So now we know almost everything. One last question remains though. How fast do you want the bouncing to be to make it feel right? Okay, well, that question is quite easily answered. We just need to know the BPM of our song. You just kinda look it up and yeah, 170 BPM is what we need. So you need to dive into the code a little bit to figure it out, but if you read webm.js, I think it tells you eventually, yeah, right here. The tempo means how many times per second we want the bounce to be. I don't know what's up with this syntax highlighting, it's awful. Thanks Notepad++. So yeah, now that we know how tempo is defined, we just need to calculate basically the hertz, right? The rate of bounces. So 170, we just divide that by 60 to get the number in occurrences per second. So yeah, at this tempo we want the bounce to be at around this speed. You can of course have to round it to some number. I am going to pick 2.83. So putting this all together with the modified bounce.js file, we want the command for WebM to look like this. Tempo 2.83. The number of threads is only 2 by default, so you know, if you have more on your CPU, you want to, you know, put it something higher, because otherwise it's going to take a while. Let's watch it run. And here we have it. So the end result is going to be exactly what you saw at the start of this video. I mean, I don't know why I'm muting this, I guess so you can hear me, but yeah, as you can see, look at it go. Now, one thing to consider is that the video bounces up and down, but you have no guarantee that it will end at the original resolution at the end. So you might want to cut your video a little bit longer, like add 1/10 of a second to add like a frame or two and see how big the video ends up. I don't know if MPV will let me show you, but yeah, it kinda aimed so that it stops at almost the same size as at the start. Otherwise, so it doesn't end up squished like that when it's unreplayable on Discord. That's kind of important too, if you want to make something cool. And that's it, we're done. Now you know how this stuff is made. So, credits. First of all, Noma for making this absolute amazing song. Yeah, Martin for the music video. Noir, I don't think that's how you pronounce it, for making WebM, which makes all of these WebMs possible. A great deal of them are terrible, but some of them are a cool gimmick. It is probably already old by now, but yeah. And lastly, of course, Coloride for making the original, for, you know, putting it all together, for figuring out how to delay the initial bounce. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.